Trump was at his desk and there was X there, mulling around. So that was interesting. And now we see Elon Musk bringing his 3 children to meet Prime Minister Modi along with X as well. Now, we saw Elon Musk offer Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, a gift. Lots of speculation online. You can help me out here, but everyone really wanting to know what that was. It looked like a glass shard kind of thing. Some saying that it's one of those miniature cyber truck that Tesla manufactures. So anyone's guess there. But on a more serious note, as Nikunj was saying, this is a really important meeting because, as we know, Elon Musk has Donald Trump's year. So what Elon Musk says, or that interaction with Prime Minister Modi, is really crucial. One telling picture, for example, was the cover on Time magazine, as you might have seen, where Elon Musk was placed behind the Oval Office desk where the president sits, making a direct connection that actually in charge rather than President Trump, or they rule perhaps the country together. So he's a very, very important figure in this administration, whether people like it or not, also a very controversial figure. So that meeting between Elon Musk and our Prime Minister, very crucial as well. As far as deals go, like Nikunj was saying, it was perhaps discussions, perhaps source-based information saying that they talked about Starlink, that's Elon Musk's satellite broadband company that's trying to make its way into India, any stumbling blocks there, trying to get rid of that, and also perhaps looking at how Tesla can finally come into India. And Narendra Modi, again, source-based reports saying, looking at how Tesla can just set up manufacturing in India rather than just assemble foreign cars or Tesla cars in India for Indians.
Okay, so I really do not understand much of what Elon Musk gave to Prime Minister Modi, but I can tell you what Prime Minister Modi gave to the kids of Mr. Musk.
Right.
He in fact gave a book, a collection of poems specifically written for children. Then he gave the Panchtantra and the great R.K. Narayanan collection as well. So this is certainly, it's about the Indian story which Prime Minister Modi has shared with those children. Let's bring in Irina now. Irina, I'm looking at the press release which has come vis-a-vis the meeting which happened between US National Security Advisor Michael Waltz and Prime Minister Modi. It says that there has been the focus on deepening of India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership with a focus on strategic technologies as well as defense, industrial cooperation and civil nuclear energy. And of course, counter-terrorism. That's an important aspect, particularly keeping in mind that the challenges which come from Khalistani radical elements.
Thank you so much. Indeed, while I have to agree with Dr. Blank on some of his points characterizing Donald Trump, there is a bigger story here, which is that we are observing an interesting continuity to the US policy with India, a very important point which places this relationship above some of the transactional elements we are seeing elsewhere. Some of these partnerships, while they started under Trump, they continued throughout the Biden administration, and we saw a peak of technology exchanges and space-related discussions during the Biden administration. And we are seeing that this administration, upon returning to office, is not breaking them off, but is seeking to build on these relationships. And that sort of continuity, that sort of strategic depth is a very welcoming sign. It means that whatever the transactional challenges regarding tariffs or other issues, they are going to be secondary to this continuity, to this strategic relationship that is moving in a very positive direction and is moving quietly in a way that's that shows a seriousness and a commitment. Another element of this is that we are seeing that there's been an apparent change in the U.S. administration's position regarding the Khalistanis, in that we are not hearing about the White House meetings with Khalistani lobbyists right before meeting with Prime Minister Modi. That alone is a huge signal that there is going to be an openness to listening to India's concern that may not have been quite there under the Biden administration, and I think there will be an opportunity to discuss the legitimate security concerns and also how to handle them in a way that corresponds to the U.S. law, but also joint interest in countering extremism by the two countries that we have not seen over the past 4 years, and that will also be an opening for further strategic depth in other counterterrorism and counter-extremism concerns. So far, a lot of the media coverage has focused less on Trump's view on counterterrorism and counter-extremism and more on other foreign policy issues, controversies, and domestic reforms. But during his first term, there has been a very consistent and broad focus on those issues, and I think this is where India and US have a great opportunity together, even more so than at the start of Trump's first term.
Okay, a word now from Xenia. Professor Bell, how are you looking at this crucial bilateral, and but before that, series of call-ons that have happened already at the Blair House?
I think it's extremely positive, right? This isn't the first time that Modi has visited the United States. This isn't the first time that Modi has met President Trump. And, especially this meeting comes at a time when, US is imposing tariffs across the board. And as my fellow panelists said, almost in a position where the United States is starting a trade war, right? And we are in that environment wherein a trade war is brewing, with Trump saying an eye for an eye, reciprocal tariffs. We are going to counter any country that imposes tariffs on U.S. goods with tariffs on any goods that are imported from that country into the United States, which Alice touched upon. But I think that, as my fellow panelists talked about, the relationship overall goes beyond import and export, right? It's a strategic partnership on counterterrorism, on cybersecurity, at this point on AI, on exchange of pharmaceuticals. There's so much that the two countries exchange. There is such a deep relationship, especially since, the US and China relationship is beyond salvation at this point. In a lot of ways, US considers China as an adversary. So, US looks to India to counter China's growing power, to counter China's growing industrial, manufacturing, and technological power. And India
Professor
has
Bal, just hold on to your thoughts.
Young population.
I'm going to cut across to White House again. That's where Nikunj Garg joins us live. Nikunj, over to you. What are you seeing?
Well, what I see is a very heavy-duty media contingent, Maria, which probably would be visible in the pictures behind me. Despite my best attempts, I don't think I'll be able to get you the live shots of Prime Minister and President Trump when they come together outside from the West Wing side. It's just simply too robust a media contingent. It's difficult to get past them and the security. What I can show you is that you can see this large gathering on the West Wing side, which is also towards the Blair House side, where the Prime Minister himself was actually staying some time back. Roughly 200 meters in the same precincts as White House is. And everyone is waiting here very, very eagerly. The world press, the global press is, in attendance here for the coming out of the two leaders, for the physical handshake and the guard of honor that probably would be given. And if I can probably try and show you that there's a full roll call of the guard of honor that is now present here, if it is visible on my screen, on either side of the White House. So if I'm able to manage the shots correctly, probably that will be visible to you. However, as I said, that the whole focus right now is on that event, on that coming out of the president and the Prime Minister, and the entire press corps is situated trying to get that one single vantage shot as much as possible for them.
Nikunj, you have been in Washington for the last few days. Does the press there have equal amount of curiosity as we have in India?
Well, that's an interesting question, Maria. My sense is, given the nature of the visit, given the fact that minus contingency, it's the only leader of the International Committee nations, Mr. Narendra Modi, who is coming here and meeting President Trump. Remember, whom has he met before? He's met Egyptians. He's going to meet Egyptians. He's met Jordanians. He's met Israelis and similar such people. One probably more. Where there was a contingency on the U.S. interest, and they're all obviously very old U.S. allies right from the time of the World War II. So from that point of view, without any contingency, Prime Minister Narendra Modi coming here, the usual degree of interest that the people now have in India and India's affairs in Washington, D.C. and in most global capitals, I would say that yes, the press corps here in Washington, D.C. and the international press corps also, both are equally, I would say, engaged with this visit.
Yes, the India story has everyone curious, certainly, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We have seen that at multiple platforms, and India and United States have several points of convergences rather than what we have seen, the points of tension. But looking at where you are again, and how many minutes to go for the Prime Minister to arrive?
Well, I think it's testing everyone's patience here. Everyone who's gathered here, as I said, heavy-duty media corps, heavy-duty media contingent there, and other than that, officials of various hues. Not only just the officials handling the press, but White House Secret Service, the Guard of Honor in charge, and the in charge of the overall White House security. So everyone is waiting eagerly. My sense is it should not take any longer than what it has already taken. Everything is in place.
It's happening with clockwork precision, in fact, Nikunj. It's 2:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, and just in time, we will be seeing Prime Minister's entourage enter White House any moment now. So word now on what did you pick up during the course of your conversations with the Indian delegation?
Well, as I said that, not only India, but most of the watchers of this relationship and most of the people associated with this entire process do have that one line to maintain, that currently let's not become obsessed about tariffs. Let's not become too much, let's not make it a single line story. Let's not make it a single point focus, single line story as of now, because there is so much more to this relationship. So much that this relationship can deliver, not only to the two people of these two democracies, but also to the entire global community of nations, entire global community that looks towards both these democracies, just because such a large population is becoming a rarity in the world. So in that sense, I would again continue to plead my case, so to say. My entities would be that let's not focus too much as far as these tariffs are concerned. These are issues that can be sorted. The entire gamut of this relationship is extremely broad and wide and very wide based. And let's focus on what India can get on the plate from the side of the United States, and how India can partner United States as an equal partner going forward in terms of not only just people-to-people participation, but also in the areas of tech, the tech ingenuity that India has displayed in creating such large digital public infrastructure under Mr. Modi and otherwise also. And other than that, overall betterment of human populations that need that kind of cooperation, collaboration, and civilizational change of a set of circumstances.
All right, Nikunj, we'll keep coming back to you. I am being joined by Dr. Mukesh Aghi. He is the President and CEO of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Dr. Aghi, really appreciate your time. Minutes before this crucial meeting, there has been an announcement that has come from President Trump. But as Nikunj was pointing out, are we overemphasizing on the tariff issue?
I agree with Nikunj. I think we're just latching on to one issue, which is tariff. This relationship is much, much broader and deeper. We have a partnership from a geopolitical perspective, especially in the Quad arena. We have partnership on technology, which is the ISET. They're going to rename that. Economic, $200 billion trade between the two countries. You have people to people, 5+ million Indian Americans. And so I think the relationship is much broader. Tariff is not just only against India, it's against the world. US is having almost $1 trillion trade deficit. They need to fix it. And they believe that nations are taking advantage of this liberal import policy. So I think it's a fair approach by Trump administration on reciprocity. Keep on exploring. If nations are going to put 5% tariff, US will put 5% tariff. So I think we should not basically get anchored down on tariff issues itself. The relationship will keep on moving. There is a relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. There's camaraderie, and they'll find ways to solve some of the outstanding speed bumps and to make sure the relationship does not slow down.
The fact is that US has imposed tariffs against all its trading partners. India is one of those trading partners. The big question certainly is that will the two leaders be able to find some kind of middle ground which will ensure that Prime Minister Modi puts India first and US President puts America first?
So the answer is yes. It may not be today, but as we move forward, we'll find the solution. While India has the policy of Atmanirbhar Bharat and America first, and we have consistently said that you can merge the two and they can be complementary to each other, both from a manufacturing perspective, from a job creation perspective. So I will not basically say that let's basically get stuck on this issue of tariff or America first or Atmanirbhar Bharat first. I think there are multiple ways to take this forward because the opportunity is much, much greater. You have 1.4 billion people whose purchasing power is going up every day. You have a $4 trillion economy in India to be $5 trillion economy by 2027. And what we have seen is that companies are looking to de-risk their supply chain from China, and they're moving into India. Apple is a classic example. Today, 25% of the Apple iPhone 16 are being made in India. 4 years ago, Apple didn't have much of a market share in India. Today, it has crossed $5 billion of domestic revenue in India. So India just not only provides an opportunity for de-risking supply chain, but also provides market opportunity to go after the domestic market. So I think the relationship is much, much bigger than just tariff issues only.
All right. A word also on the areas of cooperation, defense, technology, security. These are important aspects of India-US ties. And, in that meeting which Prime Minister Modi had with the NSA, he did highlight the fact that there was a wonderful discussion around all these issues, and there are several potential sectors of cooperation between the two sides, which includes AI and also semiconductors.
No, absolutely. I think when you look at on the chip side, U.S. has 3 plants which are being launched or have started the process in Ohio, in Arizona, New York. India is focused on chip manufacturing, but they're complementary because U.S. chip manufacturing objective is to produce chips 7 nanometers and below. India's focus is produce chips 15 nanometers and above itself. And if most of the iPhones, others phones use 15 and above. So the relationship is complementary. You look at global capability centers. India has roughly 1,700 global capability centers. 60% are American, and they are producing some of the best IPs coming out of for them. You look at Qualcomm, 50% of its IP is being generated in India. It's within its capability center. So there are places to collaborate, cooperate. On the defense side, there's no 2 other countries who have more joint exercises than India and the United States. On the Quad side, when we look at the 4 economies, they make almost $35 trillion in GDP. And US has a trade agreement with Japan. US has a trade agreement with Australia. India has some kind of a trade deal with Australia and Japan. Why can't we basically have the Quad percolate into economic security? So I think that there are tremendous amount of opportunities on the defense side, technology side, on people to people, and more important is on the research side. So I strongly believe that the objective of this meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi is all about trying to chart out the next 4 years agenda itself and define success as you move forward.
Appreciate your time. Let me bring in Ms. Stone now, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. Jessica, good morning to you. Certainly there's lots happening where you are. Prime Minister Modi arrives in the next few minutes. Lots at stake. But I'm fairly sure that given the kind of stakes that the two leaders realize they will be looking at more points of opportunities than points of differences.
So I just want to bring you up to speed to what Trump actually signed in the Oval Office. It was, in fact, not an executive order. It was a memorandum ordering the federal government and his trade officials to launch a 6-month study of all U.S. trade relationships and make recommendations to the White House about what level of reciprocity in the tariff relationship there should be. So despite the fact that President Trump has been telegraphing and talking about reciprocal tariffs, he did not, in fact, today implement reciprocal tariffs. What he is doing is asking for a negotiation. He is essentially saying, I have launched a study and you should come to me to start negotiating away from the possibility of reciprocal tariffs as soon as possible. I suspect that will be more the nature of the conversation between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi when it comes here. So this is the on-ground reporting. We have just finally gotten the executive order, what we thought was the executive order, and the memorandum of understanding that has been sent out. I shouldn't even call it a memorandum of understanding. It is, in fact, let me go to the document, a memorandum for the Secretary of the Treasury, Commerce, Homeland Security, OMB, U.S. Trade Representative. So this is not going out to any other country. It is going out to the people who will carry out this agenda item. Yes, President Trump is taking a very strong stance that he supports reciprocal tariffs, but he is not, in fact, implementing them against India or any other nation today. And I think that's a really important thing. Yes, he is playing a game of negotiation. He is, as he has traditionally said, he is using tariffs as a tool, but he is not, in fact, levying those tariffs yet. He is giving people 6 months to come up with plans on how to implement reciprocal tariffs. And I suspect that that same 6 months will be used to negotiate away from reciprocal tariffs with the U.S. and all of its trading partners. So some really big breaking news here on the ground ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit. He is, as you said, expected to be here any minute. The honor guard behind me is all lined up to receive him. He will get a welcome just to the left of me, or I should say screen right for those of you watching.
I think you've made a very important point there, that here is a complete window, in fact, door of negotiation which is open now. He is essentially inviting all the world leaders, all the trading partners to come and negotiate with him rather than going ahead with that reciprocal tariff. It's more of a political tool that he's using, as was expected.
Yes, absolutely. And that is something Trump administration officials briefed reporters on, calling Trump's tariffs a tool, calling them a tool, inviting discussion, inviting and allowing for the possibility of negotiating away from them. But it wasn't clear until we saw the document that what President Trump actually signed in the Oval Office today was not an executive order. It was, in fact, this memo to his trade and commerce and treasury officials and even Homeland Security officials to carry this out, to take a look, I suppose, at customs data, because that's under Homeland Security, and look at what they feel in the U.S. government is unequal and try to level the playing field through their series of proposals. So we have a much longer ramp for that negotiation than one might have thought. Prime Minister Modi essentially can start the negotiation today. Clearly, the New Delhi government has already started the negotiation well before the Trump administration took over, and they can continue that negotiation over the next several months in order to come to an agreement.
Oh, wow. I mean, just look at how the story has changed in the matter of few minutes here, Jessica. So it's very clear that this is about negotiations. It's big breaking news which is happening right here on NDTV. Thank you, Jessica, for breaking down that for our viewers. It's a 6-month study which is being done by the United States government, is what Jessica says. There has been no executive order which has been signed on reciprocal tariffs by President Trump at Oval Office today. this is essentially a tool which is being used by President Trump. So that is certainly a big news coming in. So in the next few days, we can see a long queue of all world leaders making a beeline to White House to ensure that they get a fair deal from Donald Trump. Fair to say that, and it's beginning with Indian Prime Minister. Jessica? All right, okay, so let me bring in Professor Bayal. So Professor Bayal, it's becoming clear that there is no, executive order per se. It's just a memo which has been sent to US trade officials to study, study the trade imbalances.
Slight correction there. So the Trump's Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, right, said he anticipates the investigation will complete not in 6 months, by April 1st, and it is when Trump will decide whether to enact any tariffs. And let me tell you, he's already enacted tariffs against, China. He's done that, right? And then he was able to negotiate with Mexico and Canada. So at the end of the day, he does want to negotiate. Modi is there. They're probably, Prime Minister Modi is there. They're going to have a conversation about it. And while your panelists have talked about this, India-US ties running deeper than tariffs, tariffs is very, very important for India, right? Because India, as Trump called India or called Narendra Modi's policies, he called Narendra Modi the tariff king, pretty much, India the tariff king, because India imposes a lot of tariffs, which have been around since the 1990s, right? Especially on US goods, ranging from 5% to 125%. So Modi wants to do the same on a lot of the goods that come into the United States, but that will be extremely detrimental for the Indian economy. Therefore, a negotiation right now will be extremely beneficial if Modi and Trump can work something out. And, them working this out is big even for China, because at the end of the day, as I talked about earlier, US wants to counter China's growing presence, of course, in South Pacific region, their manufacturing capability, their industrial capability, and the transformation that has happened in China in the electric vehicles market, semiconductor industry, and also, talk about DeepSeek and artificial intelligence. And there's so much opportunity here for India and for the United States to partner on, EV manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing, on chip manufacturing, right? Apple products are being imported from India, right, into India. There is so much opportunity for industries, for big tech, for large language models, machine learning, all of that. We have to look at it very broadly when it comes to the India-US relationship, because we can't just talk about tariffs, goods. We have to talk about the things that it impacts, right? Technology sector, the manufacturing sector. And together, India and US can counter China's power. And that's eventually what US wants to do. That's one of Trump's campaign promises as well. Okay. So, as I said, wanted to correct there. By April 1st, Trump can determine whether or not he'll import, whether or not he will impose those tariffs. And as you said, and as your
Professor Bayal, that's not exactly what has happened right now. At the Oval Office, President Trump has essentially sanctioned a study. And that study is in the form of a memorandum which has been sent to the trade officials and the officials of the Homeland Security to study trade imbalances, and thereafter reciprocal tariff, as and when the form of that will be decided. Jonah Blank, come in now.
Yes, well, this is exactly what I was saying in the first segment. I thought it would take longer than 10 minutes, but apparently not. Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico lasted 2 days. These have lasted 10 minutes. This is exactly what we can expect. Trump does not understand tariffs. He doesn't understand economics. He doesn't understand any issue, and he doesn't care. The negotiations are not going to be about how to get the tariffs exactly right. The United States and India and every country have trade negotiators who work on exactly these issues every day. All that's going to be happening is that Prime Minister Modi is going to try to figure out what meaningless concessions he can give to Trump that will allow Trump to trumpet this as some sort of great victory. That's exactly what the leaders of Canada and Mexico and Colombia and Panama did, and I expect that's what Prime Minister Modi will do too. If I'm wrong, have me on, I'll gladly eat my words.
All right, so it's a memorandum ordering the development of a comprehensive plan for restoring fairness. That's what it means. So, a word now also from Irina before we take a short break.
Here I have to depart from Dr. Blank because I don't think this is going to be a meaningless discussion or that the study is meaningless. I think it's legitimate to review and study economic policy, and I actually much prefer that to the sort of pronouncements that shake the markets and cause instability. I think this particular path has been shows a capacity to evolve from the previous approaches to the one-day tariffs with Canada and Mexico. I also think it's very positive that U.S. has not focused exclusively on targeting India, whether for negotiation sake or for any other reasons, and rather it's part of a more comprehensive and broader policy. So I expect the tone of the talks to be overall positive and comprehensive, and I think I have to give Prime Minister Modi a lot of credit for his economic policies. Despite the high tariffs, overall he has done a great deal to liberalize India's economy and to take it in the direction of prosperity it is following today. I think the more India's economy develops and liberalizes and becomes global, and the more India becomes a global leader, the less it will need to rely on tariffs or other protectionist measures to benefit its businesses and economies. And I think what we are seeing today is a start of that more global approach. The discussions with top business leaders in the United States, the discussions of significant defense cooperation, all of this will require a new and more liberal approach from the economic side. I think a successful joint security, defense, counterterrorism policy will, of course, rely heavily on technologies and cooperation in technology. And I think the U.S.-India cooperation will essentially focus on creating more opportunities for India to become a more global player, which in turn will be a major setback to China's influence in the region. And I think without lowering tariffs, that will be much harder to do. But that also means that U.S. is deliberately not going to be targeting India for heavy-handed approach in terms of tariff policy. I think both sides will be looking for a way to improve relations and take it to the next level in a meaningful and comprehensive way.
Yes. So, the point that is certainly being made here is that given the nature of bonhomie, the personal equation and the personal investments that the two leaders have had, because Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump both are strongman leaders, they have shared perceptions of a number of issues. That's where I think the relationship is going to play.
Well, we've really got to look at things as they really are. Donald Trump does not care about personal relationships. We've seen this before. In his first term, he caused several scandals by making fun of Prime Minister Modi's accent. He caused a real problem by saying
Mr.
on
Blank,
camera...
just hold on to your thoughts. Let me go straight to White House again. That's where Nikunj Garg is joining us live. Nikunj, let's talk about the two leaders here. Donald Trump, Prime Minister Modi, both strongman leaders with shared perceptions on a number of issues, from China to radical Islam, to mutual animosity, many would say, of liberal media.
Well, Maria, I'll just interrupt you there for a minute. The Prime Minister his vehicle has just rolled in. So any moment now you would have those shots on your screen. The small contingent just backed by a one service vehicle has rolled in, and they're on your screens. And now you can see the official entourage of the American president also walking out to receive Prime Minister Modi on the screen. That's to my left, some 100 steps, and that's where you see Prime Minister walking inside the White House. He steps in just with one aide now, vehicle drawing back. So the official honor guard, as it is called in the United States, not the guard of honor, the honor guard is now complete. And we will have to, unfortunately, Maria, take your leave and walk inside the White House with this. I'll connect with you guys in a few hours from now, most likely, most after the press briefing of the two leaders.
All right, Nikunj, thank you so much for joining us. We'll keep coming to you soon after you finish that coverage of inside the White House. That at Oval Office is when the two leaders will be issuing a press statement. So Donald Trump, Prime Minister Modi, meeting at the White House has officially begun. We can tell our viewers that. Yes, Jonah Blank, please continue.
We seem to be forgetting about how in the first Trump term, after meeting with Imran Khan, Trump appeared before cameras to claim falsely that Prime Minister Modi had asked him to mediate the Kashmir dispute. As every Indian knows, that's not something that any Indian prime minister would do, and Trump had to get smacked down by that because personal relationships don't matter for him. Yes, they will have some bonhomie, but it won't matter. What will matter for Trump is solely Trump. Now, on the good side, I agree with Dr. Zuckerman that I would much rather have a kind of silly and fraudulent tariff war than a real tariff war, because a real tariff war doesn't help anybody. But let's not sort of let ourselves go down the path of thinking that there are actual real issues. The venue for solving problems is already in place and has been used by every previous US and Indian administration. Instead, what's happening here is just Trump essentially being both the arsonist and the fireman.
Yes, so Jonah Blank, let's talk about the points of convergences here and how, despite those short-term irritants, be it immigration issue or tariffs, the two leaders, who have the entire world watching, the world's oldest democracy, the world's largest democracy, they are the heads of these two, democracies. That's why we are calling this entire coverage as dialogue of democracies. They have much to talk.
Yes. The good news here is that the US and India have been close partners through Democratic and Republican administrations in Washington and BJP and Congress administrations in India. There's a firm bipartisan consensus in both countries for the relationship. So the good news is that the trend lines are there and will continue. And I've been saying the same thing actually since the early 1990s. When I was in government, I was part of implementing this across both Republican and Democratic administrations. That's the good news. The bad news is that Trump doesn't care about any of this. So we may well see some turbulence in the months and years to come.
No, but a word on Donald Trump. Are we, reading too less into his personality by saying that he is purely transactional? There's more to him.
Not much. I mean, he's one of the most transparent individuals on the planet. Anyone who claims they don't understand Trump has just not been paying attention. He's enormously transactional and he's enormously ego-driven. That's who he is. That if you want to understand what Trump will do in any circumstance, just think transaction and ego, and you've basically got it.
All right, Jonah Blank, thank you so much. A quick break and then we return. This remains our top focus here on NDTV. A continuous coverage as Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump's crucial bilateral meeting has begun inside the White House.
Mahakumbh, the festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
As India accelerates its growth towards self-reliance, India Inc. is leading the charge. From market dominance to manufacturing, from AI breakthroughs to disruptive innovations, India is setting the roadmap for a Viksit Bharat. Join us as business leaders, policymakers and ministers come together at the NDTV Profit Conclave 2025, the blueprint for Viksit Bharat, February 18th, 10 a.m. onwards. Tune in only on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
This week on India Ascends,
we decode the ins and outs of the historic PM Modi-President Trump meet. Mumbai to Marseille, why IMEC is poised to bring the global north and south together, and how BrahMos missile is pushing India to the forefront of military innovation and reshaping global defense dynamics.
all this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gauri Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
Big budget day. Big newsmakers on NDTV. Top ministers and opposition leaders.
ये by the people, of the people and for the people budget.
It is a fulfilling budget.
This is a development budget.
It's one of the finest budgets I've ever seen.
More than a bold move, it is a clever move.
NDTV, always the first choice of newsmakers. NDTV keeps you ahead.
There is a growing realization across the global capitals that this is a relationship which is fast moving beyond the pale of bilateralism into truly a force for global good.
Looking ahead to Prime Minister Modi's visit here to Washington, D.C. as he meets with President
Prime Minister Modi arrives at the White House for the crucial bilateral meeting with Donald Trump after Donald Trump's tough tariff talks. From Tesla chief to NSA wars, it has been a day of power-packed meetings of Prime Minister Modi. He makes his presence felt. And NDTV's Nikunj Garg brings you ball-by-ball coverage, continuous 24 hours from inside the White House now. President Trump signs a study for trade imbalances. Trump says expect no exemptions, but this is not really an executive order, which he had earlier indicated to sign.
I have decided, for purposes of fairness, that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them. No more, no less.
And Donald Trump says that Ukraine war has to end. Both Zelensky and Putin want it. He, in fact, proposes that he would love to have Russia back in the G7. And Prime Minister Modi has arrived at the White House. The bilateral with Donald Trump has begun. Let me go straight to Alistair, who's joining us live. Alistair, so minutes ago, what we were told by Jessica Stone, who had access to that memo, which has been signed by Donald Trump, which is essentially more of a study which has to be done by the trade officials and also by the Homeland Security, that the trade imbalances have to be studied. But I think you have a group of Indians there. Please speak to them. Get us some sound bites this morning.
Maria, I'm going to answer that question in just a bit. There's one people that have come from all over the US. It's hard to reach the box. We've been real hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Anyone managed to catch a glimpse of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? You did? Okay, great. And where did you come from?
I came from Chennai, but
Okay.
I felt so blessed to meet Modi and I'm here today too.
You met him?
Yes, I met him.
And what did you say to him?
Pray for me.
And what did he say? All right.
That's after he touched my head. I'm so
Right. Who else met him? Did you meet him? Yeah. And what did you say? Mm-hmm.
and everything. But once he comes, I don't know where the power comes. He's the power back.
Right.
And he gave the shake hand and he put the mic. And very happy.
Okay. Any particular issue that you think that Narendra Modi should be bringing up with Donald Trump? Please?
The best voice for legal immigration. So I think that
What about the legal immigration, H-1B visas?
H-1B visas, and there are other routes like other visas. Fast track.
I'm going to come back to you in just a bit. Till you get a better connection, we'll try and fix that line. Drumil is joining us. He is an AI, tech and data science expert. Drumil, as someone who is into AI, which meeting was of most interest to you? I can see Seema Sirohi as well, author and columnist for Economic Times, and Jake Novak, who is the political analyst with Political Analyst. Drumil, coming to you.
Yep, the recent meeting between the PM Modi and Donald Trump primarily focused on trade, tariffs, and defense cooperation. So while AI is in a central topic of the discussions, the strengthening of economic and strategic ties between India and the US is kind of a future collaborations in emerging technologies, including AI. So, both nations have shown a key interest in advancing AI, as evidenced by initiatives like US-India Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, which is known as ICET, which kind of aims to enhance cooperation in areas such as quantum computing, semiconductors, and AI. And I personally believe, according to the recent AI summit, India's active participation in global AI dialogues, such as, the Paris summit hosted by PM Modi and French President Emmanuel Macron, underscores the commitment of the nations. And these efforts, combined with the deepening US-India partnership, suggest, a broader strategic alignment that could foster all advancements in AI collaboration.
Yes, and particularly in that meeting that he had with Michael Waltz, the National Security Advisor, he highlighted this sector. He spoke about AI, semiconductors, space, and more.
Oh, yep, absolutely. So, for companies like Tesla, SpaceX, India presents an unparalleled opportunity, a billion-plus market. And PM Modi has met with NSA, Elon Musk, which signifies a strategic alignment between India's digital ambitions and Silicon Valley's technology leadership. So India is already known for its vast talent pool and growing AI ecosystem, is no longer a consumer, right? But it's about co-developing the next gen AI models, autonomous systems, and deep space innovations that will redefine the global tech landscape.
Okay, Durya Dinojwala is also joining us. She is an immigration law expert. I'm coming to you, Ms. Sirohi. When we look at the itinerary of Prime Minister Modi, of course, this is the most important aspect of it. But before that, he had two critical players of the security apparatus of Donald Trump administration meet him. You had Tulsi Gabbard and also the National Security Advisor, followed by someone who heads the Department of Government Efficiency, and of course Vivek Ramaswamy. It has been pretty a high-profile visit, but what do you think will be the big messaging that will come from this meeting, which is happening even as we speak?
Well, it's, it has to conclude when we get the joint statement, we can say. But so far, the main focus has been on tariffs and the decision of President Trump to announce a study on reciprocal tariffs. Hours, like an hour before he was to meet the Prime Minister of India, is a kind of a signal which I'm sure the Indian side was expecting, but not in such a direct manner. So that may overshadow other things. But I think tariffs are not the only part of the relationship, and we shouldn't focus too much on that. The relationship between India and the United States is very broad-based. So the fact that he met the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, met Tulsi Gabbard, her first meeting after being sworn in by President Trump, all those indicate that, the India-US strategic partnership, the main linchpin, of course, the main reason for convergence is China and its aggressive behavior in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. So we have to, and the cooperation in technology, in space, in whichever domain you look at, the two countries are working together. But the emphasis on tariffs is kind of, I would say, undermine the understanding for the public that how important the relationship is, and the US side emphasized that this morning in a briefing by senior administration officials.
Are you of that opinion then, Ms. Siroy, that there has been an overemphasis on this, that there are several aspects of this relationship that tends to be undermined because we are overplaying the issue of tariffs?
Well, I think so, because, problematic issues can be siloed. Just like under the Biden administration, you saw the indictments and the alleged assassination plot, etc., were not allowed to undermine the larger, broader relationship. I think in the same way, progress will be made on other issues, and that's why I say it's important to wait for the joint statement. The fact that the Indian side announced that there will be a joint statement means one thing, that they've been working on it for a while, and things have been agreed to, and which will show progress in all of the main areas, mainly technology, defense cooperation, energy. So that's the way I look at it. I know I might be in a minority situation here.
Seema Siroy, I tend to agree with every observation that you have made here. So not really a minority on that count. But Jake Novak, come in now about the irritants. Let's look at the areas of challenges, particularly to do with humans, in the sense that people-to-people equations, that has been impacted particularly with the deportation. The illegal migrants, the way that they were handcuffed and then deported, Indian side did register their view that there has to be a humane deportation. Go ahead with deportation, because if they are illegal immigrants, but why handcuff them? Why chain them?
Well, the answer to that question immediately is people need to know internationally that the people who are being deported now, the people who are being arrested now, are not just people who are here in this country illegally. I'm talking to you from the United States right now. They are the worst of the worst. These are people who have criminal records both in their home countries and here for violent crimes. That is the priority right now. They're not the only people being deported but they are the overwhelming majority of them. And so this is a very serious situation. The people who are now standing up and trying to stop these deportations now are being very unwise, because these are very unpopular people in this country by far. And I can't think of more than, I don't think that any of them, for example, are Indian or Pakistani or people like that, maybe one or two. But in general, that isn't the group that's being going after. These are Central American, South American gang members, drug traffickers, child sex traffickers, and the like. So, you know, look, that doesn't mean you can brutalize a prisoner. You're never allowed to do that. But to put them in handcuffs, to put them in serious security prisons, that is justified. So that's one thing. But look, I think Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump see eye to eye on that. And I think the most important part of everything we should not ignore the elephant in the room, which is this is very early in President Trump's second term, and he's making sure to invite Prime Minister Modi to be basically the first massively large country world ruler to come visit him. There have been other foreign leaders who have seen President Trump, but they've been mostly Israel and Middle East, smaller countries. This is a very, very big shot in the arm for the Indian-American partnership that's so early in this term. President Trump has made sure that he has this visit with Prime Minister Modi. And that should, by the way, send a very strong message to China mostly, but also to Russia, that the United States is exploring all of its options. And the friendship we should have had with India, this level of friendship, we should have had this friendship with India a long time ago. I blame Democrat presidents, Obama and Biden, for not making us that not accentuating that friendship as much as they should. So that's really the headline today, I think, for everyone around the world.
Okay, so and the fact is that Prime Minister Modi is the only fourth leader who has been accorded that welcome in many ways by Washington, D.C. He is following the Israeli and Japanese premiers and also, Jordan's King Abdullah. So the emphasis on strong bipartisan equations cannot be missed. But delve a little more on Mr. Novak, because you're saying that this is a shot in the arm on the Indian side if they have managed a meeting of this nature within less than a month of Donald Trump's second presidency. Do you think China in particular will be watching this?
Oh, I think they're watching it very closely, and they should be nervous, because the United States understands that the leadership that India has had now for quite some time. I mean, Prime Minister Modi is not a fly-by-night leader. He's been there for more than a decade. That's very important. And by the way, it is my strong belief that the world's turn to a more populist, common-sense leadership throughout the world probably began with the election of Prime Minister Modi, not with Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump was the beginning of that here in the United States. But I think that there is a move towards more common sense. I wouldn't call it conservative. I would call it common sense leadership. I think that began with Modi's election, and it eventually got here to the United States only 2 years later, which is pretty impressive turnaround. But yes, this is definitely a message to China. I think there are a lot of nations around the world, the United States, Israel, a few other countries that are really looking to India and have been for some time as an alternative to having to rely on China, as an alternative to being afraid of China. And we must get that partnership more solidified. And I think we took a turn away from it under President Biden. I don't know what President Biden was cultivating in this world at all, frankly. I don't think he was really doing much for America's presence overseas and friendships overseas with our important allies. But now that President Trump is back in office, you don't have to like President Trump. You don't have to be a conservative. But you do have to be a decent and common sense person to understand that we must enhance our relationship with India. It's our only option in that general region of the world. We have no other option. We're already friendly with Japan, but Japan is a shrinking country, and it's an important ally. But imagine the combination of the United States, India, Japan, and a few of our other allies there to really stand strong against what China's doing. This is essential, and it's a shame we took 4 years off from this relationship, but we're getting it back on now.
Okay. Let me bring in Durya now and get into the H-1B visa program. MAGA camps certainly have talked about curtailing it. Donald Trump has to address his domestic constituency as well. But clampdown of this nature, do you think really they can talk much about it? Or in fact, let's play those visuals full frame now, because those visuals have started coming in. from inside the Oval Office, where the first set of visuals are coming in of Prime Minister Modi and US President Donald Trump. They are there. There is a huge media contingent which is there from all across the world, given the nature of curiosity which is there between the two sides. But yes, Durya, go ahead. Let's talk about H-1B visa quota that India has. India, of course, is the key beneficiary of this program. But both Donald Trump and DOGE chief Elon Musk have emphasized on the fact that it is about merit, and Indians do have that merit and the advantage of merit.
So good evening to your viewers.
Yes, Durya, go ahead.
Yes, so I'm located in Ohio, and as far as I can see, I do H-1B visas. I do not see any changes in the H-1B visa program. It is very much a legal program, and in fact, the H-1B lottery registration will begin next month in March of 2025. And the rules and regulations pretty much remain the same. So I'm kind of glad that there have been no changes to the H-1B visa program. So I do not foresee any changes for it, at least in the short term.
Okay, and do you think that's one of the issues that could come up today?
So I do not know if it was discussed, but I have seen President Trump's basically all the news last month, and I do not know what was discussed, but I do not foresee any changes in it.
All right.
And if it has been, I would
Seema
agree
Surai
with
coming
you that
to you. Seema Surai coming to you. We are looking at those visuals from inside the Oval Office, where President Trump and Prime Minister Modi are sitting next to each other. This is an important meeting. The two leaders have much in common, much views in common. There has been a great degree of bonhomie on display. Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy, Seema Surai, has been very personality driven, which has been driven by his personal equations with the world leaders. And we have seen how negotiations happen best when it is driven by that personal bonhomie.
Right. I mean, the two leaders have met several times in the past and have a close rapport, and they have kind of a personal relationship. President Trump has never criticized the Prime Minister, even though he has criticized India's tariff regime. So that's very interesting. You know, sometimes he criticizes people, calls them names and things. He did that, especially with European leaders the last time around. But I want to point out a couple of things. This is Trump 2.0. It's a very different administration. I wouldn't put too much faith in how well it went the last time around, because anything could happen. This time, President Trump needs certain goals to be met that he has promised his base, and he's going about it in a very determined manner. His cabinet is all on the same page, unlike the last time. So this is a meeting where the two leaders will kind of reacquaint themselves with each other again, and it's a different world also. Not only is it a different administration, the world is also different. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of it. In terms of the visa question that you were asking the last guest, I would just say, I don't think it'll come up at the Prime Minister's level. No Prime Minister of India or, you know, any major country is going to ask for favors like that, right? Giving a visa is a prerogative of the country that gives the visas. And this might be discussed at the level of the External Affairs Ministry. And it'll be couched in very different language. Now India talks about mobility, doesn't talk about H1Bs per se. So mobility is about the ability of skilled workers from anywhere to be able to work in the global marketplace. So that's how it'll all happen. I'm sure it'll come up at the delegation level talks.
Okay, so there has been a hug which has happened as well, and I would request the producers to put that on screen immediately. Soon after Prime Minister Modi entered the White House, there was a hug that happened between him and Donald Trump. Because that certainly has been the high point here, Jake Novak.
I'm sure it is. I mean, and that's not something Donald Trump does very often. He had to get over his aversion to shaking hands when he ran for president the first time. He didn't used to do that. Yeah, you don't see that very usually from Donald Trump. So that's awesome. That's a great shot. And I think this is the picture that President Trump really wants China to see. Get a good look at this, President Xi, because this is the kind of partnership and friendship and easy communication that these two men have, and that should make everyone else who are enemies of the United States and enemies of India take a big pause. Check this picture out very closely. I'm so glad you put it up because this is important. And I blame the United States for the last 20 years for not cultivating a strong enough relationship with India. Before that, I think it was India's fault mostly. But you know what? Both of those things are in our rearview mirror. That's gone. And we have important things to talk about. I agree with your last guest. We shouldn't focus too much on the tariff discussion because there are economic differences. There's always economic differences between one country and the next, even the best of friends. But I don't think President Trump is using tariffs for economic reasons. He's using tariffs, which are an economic tool, to give us a political result. And what I think he wants to do by having India come to the United States and start to ask about what it can do to reduce tariffs or any kind of issue between the United States and India economically, that will strengthen our political bond because that will prove that we're willing to cooperate on money, which is a pretty big deal. So I think this is a political goal more than an economic goal. And that is why the H-1B visa situation, I don't think is going to change all that much, especially if Donald Trump delivers to his base strong numbers on other economic problems. If he's able to give the American people good numbers on these deportations of the dangerous criminal illegal immigrants that I was telling you about before, they're not going to be so angry anymore about H-1B visas because that's the first priority. These criminals, the violence, the migrants on the streets. That's not the H-1B visa issue. And Americans will be less concerned about that if we get rid of this bigger problem first.
Okay, but I'm looking at that picture and it's right here on NDTV. A word on this, personal chemistry that we are seeing, Jake Novak. What a shot here.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that obviously Donald Trump considers personal relationships and his ability to pick up a phone and talk to someone much more important than some of the policy issues on paper. I guess this is something that had to do with his years as a businessman and cultivating personal relationships. But for whatever reason, again, this is why it's such an important picture because Donald Trump doesn't hug people in public. I mean, I can't